Hey everyone, welcome back to Ore Sawmills Timber Tales. So today we got a big old red oak on the mill. It's been here for roughly I think 4 months. But we're gonna mill this into select grade or best grade we can. So we're gonna cut most of the jacket lumber off, and then the centers on these red oaks I always turn into 2-inch lumber. Because it's always checked and there's always a lot of limbs on it. So this log has 3 really good sides. So there's no limbs on this side, the bottom side, or towards the rail here. But there's a little bit of a defect right in here. It looks like there might be a limb underneath, but it's not showing through. But I can see it, and it looks like there'll be a limb coming out there. We're gonna try to get the best lumber we can out of this thing. It's got a little bit of a butt swell, so obviously we're going to lose some board footage with that taper there. But as far as taper goes, there's not much on this one. I mean, it's probably 4 inches in diameter different from that end to this end, which isn't terrible for being a butt log. So we're going to just try to mill it up, take our time, see what happens, and whatnot. But we got a little bit of an offset pitch, or center of the pith, I should say. That center should be a little bit more to the right there, but it was probably growing on a hillside or on the edge of a woods, so that's what happens with the centers. With centers, we want them more to look like this one here, almost directly in the middle, but nonetheless it'll work. So come with us, and I'm gonna slice this up and hope you guys enjoy the video. We'll see what happens.
So how big is this red oak log? It is around 24 to 25 inches on the near side, and then the butt of the log where the saw is entering now is between 29 and 32 inches, depending on where you measure it from. So this tree has 2 sides of the tree where the butt swell is fairly noticeable, and then on the other 2 sides of the log the butt swell is only like 1 or 2 inches. And this is usually an indicator of a tree on the hillside. So when somebody was cutting this tree down to harvest it, they started on the closest side to the ground, but by the time they got to the part of the tree that was away from the hillside, the butt swell was way below it, so it could have been 8-9 inches down. So the log is pretty much true on the side out on the hill, and then the side closest to the hill, that's where the butt swell hangs around. So that's what I noticed from this tree. And then also with the center of that pith being a little bit off, it tells me that tree was reaching for light, so it was either on a hillside or there was a tree in the woods that blew over and it grew out to where that opening in the woods was. So we're trying to saw for select grade, so the widest the boards we can get, the better, but we also have to account for any defects that we will see, and we have to change our plan almost all the time because we never know what's going to be on the inside. So let's check that out.
So one of the biggest problems with hardwoods is there's check lines or cracks that form in the wood. So on this log, for example, from that center pith, it cracks upward and upward, and then it goes into here. You can't see it really in the camera, but right there, there's a little bit of a spot where the grain pops up. And then this is what happens with that crack. You can't see it until you saw it most of the time, but I can see them when I'm sawing, so I always try to line them up so that they're either perpendicular or horizontal with vertical or horizontal with the cant, because that would be cracked down every single board if you sliced it down the cant. But if you flip it 100 or 90 degrees from here, when you slice it down it, you can save at least most of the cant. There'll be 3 boards in the middle where the center of the pith is anyways, where that crack is going to show up, and then you don't end up wasting the whole log. You're able to get at least some value out of it before you have to junk the center of the cant. But this board here, there's still a 1x6 on the this side of it, so that's still all right. But starting to get into the territory where you could waste some wood. So there's a 1x8 in that one, and then maybe you can get a 1x4 out of this one yet. Looks like you probably can. So it's not junk, but you gotta watch how you saw it, otherwise you could waste a whole log. Usually with these cracks, they match each other on both ends most of the time, but sometimes they go the opposite direction. What really becomes a problem is when that check line is kind of out this corner, like this one is a little bit, and then on the other side it's straight up and down. That's when you get a lot of waste.
So when you're sawing red oak for grade, you want to be very accepting of whatever width that the log's going to give you. You don't go at and say, hey, I'm going to saw this log into 1x12s only. When you're sawing for grade, you want to be okay with 1x4s, 1x6s, 1x8s, 1x10s, 1x12s, 1x14s, 15s, whatever you get out of that log, because you're trying not to waste anything. And after the lumber's dried, you can rip it down to the size that you need and it's more valuable for you. But you don't want to just say, hey, I'm only sawing 1x8s or 1x10s out of this log, because that's where a lot of people, when they're sawing, they go and start sawing and they're only going for 1x8s, and they end up wasting all the good lumber because they're going to split it down the middle, and then one board's going to have the knot and the other board's going to be 100% clean, or vice versa. So the best thing to do is just cut what you think is the best lumber, and it doesn't matter the width, and then after it's dried, you can rip it down to either a 1x4 or a 6 or an 8, but the wider the board and the hardwoods, the more the cup you're going to get. So when you're drying it, it's good to weight it, get a lot of weight on top of it, so that way it minimizes the cupping. I like to dry the hardwoods, like air dry them for at least a month and a half to 2 months before I throw them in the kiln. It just eliminates some of that checking, and it helps with a more stable product when it comes down to it. So when I'm sawing, when I say just you be okay with whatever width you get, I am shooting for a certain minimum width. So I typically choose, before I get to the center of the cant, what size board I want, and that's usually a 1x8 or a 1x10. So on this log, the smallest board I would have would be a 1x8, because I'm shooting for 1x10s, and then obviously there's going to be boards that I'll edge up, but you got to have a minimum in mind for what you're going to leave the center of that cant at.
So just like that, we're done with this log. So the centers, I always leave 2 inches. So there's 3 2x10s in there. Like I said, we were trying to get clear, or shoot for clear. So this one here looks almost clear from this side, but there's a little bit of limbs in it in the center. And then the reason why I always line the knots up with the corner of the log is because this is on the edge. Well, now if you wanted to rip some nice lumber out of that, you can get rid of that defect while you're just squaring up the board to use it, and then you don't waste any lumber. So like this board over here, both the knots are coming out the edges, so you can get your center out and then you can use the sides of it as well. You're just trying to not salvage, but utilize the best wood you can out of the log. So we got a lot of nice select grade red oak. There's a little bit of them that are going to be number 2s, and there's one or two number 3s, but we have some defect, like the ones that I had the cracks. There's 3 more that had cracks that came into them, so those we'll leave whole. We won't rip them or edge them. We'll leave them whole, and then after they're dried, then we'll rip out what we need out of them. We got 2 almost clear 1x16s. So these 2 red oaks here are almost clear. There's one knot there and then another one down there. The rest of it's clear, 100% clear. So it's nice that you can get almost 16 inches wide of no knots or defect. So those are some beautiful boards, and this is what all the centers become. And the reason why we cut centers into 2x is because of all those cracks. You don't want to have that in your lumber. So I could probably get some more boards off the sides, but the 2x8s and 2x10s are great for decking because there's a lot of good wood besides the cracks. So you can use them for like hay racks and stuff. I wouldn't recommend them for your car trailers, but they work good for hay racks. So we don't like to waste stuff. So I don't make railroad ties, but if I did, that's what those would end up being, would be railroad ties, because they hide all the defect. This is what I got left to saw. There's, I think, 2 more logs from that tree, so I think it's that one and this one. That one's from another tree, but we got 2 smaller ones. One must have been standing dead because there's no bark left on it. Still a good log, but it does have some defect in it because of the no bark. You can see the checking in the side of it. So some of those boards on the edge might be junk, but nonetheless, still some good wood in it. We'll get it out of it. If you're new to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe, and come with me and follow along for some more sawmill and lumber content. We hope to see you on the next one.